All right, let's dive into something really fascinating. We're looking at a document that feels almost secret. It's called the Pharmacopoeia of Extinct Emotions.
And it kicks off with a question that, really gets you thinking. Have you ever felt this longing for a feeling you just couldn't put a name to? Like you're hungry for something, but you don't even know what it is?
Okay, so right off the bat, you need to know this is not poetry. It's not some philosophical thought experiment. The author, a researcher named Istra Veln, makes it super clear from the get-go. She says the emotions cataloged in this volume are not metaphors. And that distinction is everything. She means it literally.
So what exactly is this thing? Let's dig in. Our first section is all about this idea of a secret archive of the soul.
Veln calls her field affective paleontology. Yeah, you heard that right. She defines it as the scientific study of emotions that have, well, gone extinct or become dormant because of how our society and our world have changed. It's kind of like a biologist studying, say, the dodo bird, but for feelings.
But here's where it gets really, really interesting. Velm's whole argument is that these emotions aren't actually gone forever. She thinks they're just dormant, lying asleep inside of us, like they're written into our very DNA.
I love how she puts it. She says, I believe they are dormant, not dead. Instructions written in the body that the body has simply stopped reading. So you see, the code is still there. We've just forgotten how to run the program.
Okay, I know what you're thinking. This sounds pretty abstract, right? So let's make it real. Let's look at a case study to see how this actually works. We're going to start with the first emotion she catalogs, a feeling called Verentium.
So what on earth is Verentium?
Well, it's the feeling of being watched by a landscape. But, and this is super important, it's not paranoia. It's not that creepy feeling. This watching has complete attention but zero agenda. It's not threatening at all. It's just present.
Veln actually breaks the whole experience down into 3 phases. First, there's recognition. That's the moment you notice it, you become aware of the watching. Then comes suspension, this feeling of being held by the landscape. And then finally, you get release, which is when the feeling just stops, and it's often pretty sudden.
And, this wasn't just some one-off weird experience someone had. Velm's research is packed with accounts from all through history. Like you've got this 11th century monk, Brother Anselm, who wrote about feeling the land hold him. And then, hundreds of years later, you have a 19th century Irish woman, Maura Fichalek, who talked about the looking of the land like it was just a totally normal, everyday thing.
What's so incredible about Brother Anselm's story is that his fear wasn't about the land itself. It was about the land forgetting him. I mean, listen to this quote. I fear the land will forget me before I forget the land. That just says so much, doesn't it? It points to this deep, two-way relationship that, well, we've pretty much completely lost touch with.
So the big question is, if this feeling was so real for people, what happened? Why don't we feel it? And that brings us right to the next part of Veln's work, which she calls the Great Forgetting.
According to Velm, it wasn't like a switch just flipped off. It was a slow burn, a gradual dismantling over hundreds of years. Think about it, the enclosure of common lands, the invention of the clock, the rise of the work ethic, the scientific revolution. Each of these things chipped away, piece by piece, at the kind of world where a feeling like Verentium could even exist. So basically, for Verentium to thrive, it needed 4 key things that our modern world has just obliterated. First, you needed continuity of habitation, people living in the same place for generations. Second, perceptual simplicity, a world without constant noise and ads and notifications. Third, you needed a culture that actually valued purposeless stillness, just being. And finally, you needed a worldview where the non-human world could be seen as a person, as something alive and aware.
But let's go back to Veln's core idea. Remember, these feelings are dormant. They're not dead. And this is where her work gets really wild, maybe the most provocative part of all, reactivating lost senses. So for every extinct emotion she documents, Veln includes something she calls a reactivation signature. Think of it like a recipe or a set of instructions. It's a protocol designed to try and reawaken that dormant capacity in a modern person, right here, right now.
So you might be wondering, how could I possibly feel Verentium? Well, the steps are surprisingly simple, but also incredibly difficult in our world today. First, find a place that's older than you are. Then go there with no agenda. And yes, that definitely means no phone. Then you just practice stillness.
And after that, you wait.
And this isn't just an abstract idea for Veln. She's lived it. She talks about this time she was sitting in a university archive, and she suddenly became aware that she was, quote, being attended to by the archive itself. It's like the place, which was just soaked in centuries of human focus and attention, started paying attention back to her.
So what happens when the feeling stops? This is fascinating. Veln says there's this huge, almost overwhelming sense of grief, but she doesn't see that as a bad thing. She actually sees it as crucial evidence. She writes, the grief, when it stops, is real. That is also data. In other words, the depth of that sadness proves just how profound the connection was.
Veln wraps up her introduction with this one line that just stays with you. It's both an invitation and a challenge. She just says, there is a door. You already know there is a door. And with that, she kind of leaves it up to us, doesn't she? Makes you wonder what other feelings, what other entire ways of being are just waiting for us behind a door we've completely forgotten how to even look for.